Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the beginning of 8th grade. I'm so excited for this school year. I'm so excited to meet you all via Google Meet and also hopefully very soon in person when we can start coming to school. I want to go through a few examples here regarding some skills that you saw a little bit in 7th grade math, and they're going to come back in a big way in 8th grade math. And I thought it would be a useful use of time here in these first several days to kind of review some of these skills. So feel free to pause this video as you go. If you would like, I may ask some questions along the way. See if you can do some of these problems. All these problems in this little video are all about expressions, so simplifying expressions and also solving some equations in a little bit. Remember, the difference between expressions and equations is an expression, which would be like number one, an expression has no equal sign. There's no equal sign in an expression, whereas when we get to equations here in a minute or two, you'll see an equal sign to solve for. When you solve an expression, you have the challenge of combining like terms. Like terms are terms that have the same variable attached to them. So in this case, you have 3x and a 7x and a x, which is like a 1x. Those are all like terms. So we could put those together. And you add these terms just the same way as you would add 3, 7, and 1. The only difference is there's an x attached to it. So if you do 3x plus 7x plus 1x, that would be 11x. That's the answer to that expression simplification. Number two, I made it a little harder on you. You may recall the distributive property from 6th and 7th grade, where when you have a number outside the parentheses, you actually distribute it inside the parentheses, reason being because these are not like terms. You cannot combine those two terms inside the parentheses. Yes, I know P, parentheses, is the first thing in the order of operations, but if you can't combine what's inside the parentheses, then you move on. There's no exponent, so the next thing is multiplication. So you're distributing that 4 inside the parentheses. So 4 times 7x, that's 28x. And 4 times 3 is a positive 12. Then we have a plus x and a plus a negative 2. Well, this is a little bit different, a little bit more challenging. We have two different types of like terms here. We have 28x, and we have a positive 1x. That's one pair of like terms. Then we have a positive 12 and a negative 2. All right, well, let's combine these together. 28x plus 1x, that makes 29x. And then 12 plus a negative 2, that's like 12 minus 2. Or as you may remember from the video on adding negative numbers, plus negative is like subtraction. So you're moving to the left on the number line. So 2 less than 12 is 10. So it would be a positive 10. And that would be your answer for number 2. Well, now we have an equal sign to deal with. So these are equations now that we're dealing with. And they are one-step equations. So as you may remember from 7th grade, the way you solve an equation, first of all, your goal is to solve for a variable. So you're trying to solve for x in this case. Now the way you do that is you use inverse operations to get that variable by itself. So the only thing in the way of x right now is this positive 3 right here. So we have to ask ourselves, how would we cancel out a positive 3 to get x by itself on that side of the equation? Well, the opposite of a positive 3 is a negative 3. So guess what? We can subtract 3 from both sides. Those cancel out, which is what we want, and we're left with x on the left-hand side of the equal sign, and 7 minus 3 is 4. That's your answer. And if we plug it back in for x, 4 plus 3 equals 7. That's true. 4 plus 3 does equal 7. Notice how I kept my equal sign lined up here on this line. My equal sign carried down, stayed nice and organized. Let's do number 4. X is being divided by 6. Well, how do you cancel out division by 6? Well, the opposite of division is multiplication. So you multiply both sides by 6. When you do that, those cancel out, which is what you want. And you're just left with x on the left side equals 8 times 6, which is 48. Let's plug in that for x and ask ourselves, is 48 divided by 6 equal 8? It sure does. 48 divided by 6 does equal 8. So x equals 48 is the answer. All right, and number 5, 2 is being multiplied by x. If you see just 2 In a variable, that just means multiplication. How do you cancel out multiplication? You do that with division. So we'll divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Plug that in for x. 2 times 6 equals 12. That is true. So x equals 6 is the correct answer. Number 6 is a little bit trickier. There's a little bit more involved here. We're going to need 2 steps to solve this one. When we're solving a 2-step equation, the first thing we do is see if we need to add or subtract to get rid of a constant first. So in this case, that positive 1 is the first thing we have to deal with. If you had Mr. Simmons last year, he said get rid of the riffraff. The riffraff is like the constant. So you could do -1 to both sides, like that. Cancels it out. You get 3x equals 9. So 3 times x, the opposite of multiplication is division, so we'll divide both sides by 3. Cancels out, and x equals 9 divided by 3, which is 3. And if we plug that into the original problem, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. That's true. We just checked our answer. X equals 3 is the correct answer. Last one here, we have a little distributive property. So we have to multiply the 4 into the x plus 7. Perhaps pause the video, see if you can do this one on your own. And when you think you have a good start, go ahead and resume. When you distribute the 4, you'll get 4x plus 4 times 7, which is 28, equals 32. All right, first we got to get rid of the riffraff, which is the 28. So we'll subtract 28 from both sides. Those cancel, and you're left with 4x equals 4. How do we cancel out multiplication by 4? With division by 4. So we'll divide both sides by 4. Those cancel. And x equals 4 divided by 4, which is 1. Plug that back into the original to check our answer. 4 times 1 plus 7. Well, 1 plus 7 is 8. 4 times 8 is 32. That's true. So x equals 1 is our final answer. How'd you do? How'd you do on that? You don't have to have this mastered right now, boys and girls. Don't worry. We're going to learn this again here in 8th grade math. This is just a little refresher. So hopefully you were able to remember some things from 7th grade through watching this video. And we will certainly talk about this stuff more this school year.